What's up, guys? You are listening to the Lifestyle Hub, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes and into the lives of inspiring individuals to not only educate, but unlock your true potential to live a healthy, happy, and fulfilling life. I'm your host, Jason Grimmer. Now let's get this show on the road. Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsor, the leading home and gym specialist in the Middle East, Ghana Fitness Supplies. Check them out at www.ghana.ae for all your fitness needs. Alrighty, guys, welcome to another episode of the Lifestyle Hub podcast. I am joined today by Mr. Sam Frolich. He is a coach in the industry over here in Dubai. He's been in the industry for over 10 years now and specializes in guiding people to be the best role models they can be for their kids. And that is the topic for today, which I'll touch on in a moment. Sam, welcome.
Nice to be here, mate. Thank you for having me.
Tell me a little bit about how you evolved into the family man that you are now.
So I think it was just post-COVID. George fell pregnant. Wasn't planned or anything. These things just happen. And so then July 2021, our boy Sebastian was born, which was great, obviously, but we had a couple of issues. And the first year was pretty stressful. Long story short, he ended up having about 4 major surgeries in about 8 months. So they were done in the UK mainly. So I was kind of here by myself, looking after the dog, working, and then they were in the UK. So yeah, that first year, they were hardly here. So that was obviously not the best start.
Yeah, that was a tough time for you from memory.
Anyone close to me like you and anyone around kind of knew what was going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't a nice time, a testing time.
And yeah.
So, but anyway.
I mean, especially out of COVID, like things were already tough.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it was a bit after, but we just made it back to the UK. If anyone remembers that summer, like you couldn't fly to the UK.
Yeah.
At that time, and they changed the rule, and then literally the next day we went back, and thankfully we did, because ended up having more, as I said, surgeries back there. So actually kind of lucky we did, because we realised there were more issues, and a hospital in London called Great Ormond Street, it's like one of the world's best children's hospitals, they actually ended up helping him. So again, kind of lucky we went back, and so it was, again, tough time for that first year or so. But yes, it's been just over a year now since we at least all been together here.
How did you manage that time by yourself here? Like mindset-wise?
Yeah, it was tough.
Because you were here because you had to work, right?
Yeah, well, obviously here trying to work, as you know, with our job is not, if you're training people in person, you need to be there in person. So I'm trying to hold down the fort here, look after the dog, again, as you know.
Yeah.
We have a dog, so he already spent quite a few weeks in daycare. So, that was tough, obviously, by yourself. Especially when you're used to living with someone. Yeah, you just get in your own head and you end up just kind of working and then just sitting around. So it wasn't the best time, that's for sure.
Yeah. And how is Seb doing now?
Yeah, all good now. All good. Cool. So again, anyone who has a toddler, especially a boy, they are a bit crazy, a bit hard work. But again, I wouldn't be unhappy, especially after anything that happens. So some people don't get that luck or that opportunity. So let's be grateful for that. And that's all I ever thought about. Yeah,
you just wanted to get to a space where everything was okay.
Exactly. So
okay. Well, I think that's kind of helped you unlock today's topic, which we're going to focus on typically is like parents, new parents in particular that are transitioning into having kids and obviously trying to sustain their own health and wellness. I would say, looking at it from the outside, not having been a parent, I think it must be easier to have already had some sort of a health and fitness routine and then go through that process. That would be how you've handled it. But of course, we deal with a lot of people who have never started a health and fitness routine and then have kids and then, down the line realize that they should also do something about their health and fitness, etc. So, I even had a client being like, I've got more purpose now because my wife's pregnant. We're going to have a baby in 9 months. And I'm like, well, one, it would have been, you got to put yourself first, but even pre-child, but obviously it's a good sign that you're taking like a bit of initiative to say, hey, I'm responsible for somebody else now. I need to get myself in shape. So I wanted to kind of like chat to you a little bit. How did you find that transition as someone who obviously spent their whole life in the health and fitness field, I'm sure you still found it challenging, having had all that knowledge, experience, all the habits in place, and then having to go through that next chapter, or maybe not. How did you find it?
I think, firstly, that point you just made before is really, really important, because that's something I was going to say, that if anyone's listening to this, that especially females are thinking that they want to have a kid very soon, please, if you can start right away, some sort of routine, I promise you it's going to be a lot easier than trying to start when your baby's just born. Because I've had clients like that too, as you said, who want to try and start building a new habit, which is hard anyway, as we know, when their baby's born. The chances then are very unlikely. So I think that's just an important message to anyone thinking about, want to have a baby soon. Please, it's not easy, but you're giving yourself a good start if you're already in a routine. So coming on to your question, I mean, it obviously helps. I'm always aware that we are PTs and we've been doing this our whole life. So it helps that we already had these habits in place. So for me to keep training and keep eating healthy, I wouldn't say was the hardest thing. No, because it's just automatic to me. But I think, and we'll probably come on to this more, the mindset shift, especially as I said, when that was happening with Sebastian being in hospital and having surgeries, became like, right now I actually just want to exercise, especially then, more for like my mental health and everything. I didn't care. I didn't care about physical health. Of course I do. But, what I mean? That's the change that happened, especially when, he was born. And for anyone who's just had a kid, you will see that sometimes, you just need to get out of the house, or you just need to go for a walk. And some exercise can be that powerful as actually just a mental break for half an hour. So I think that's definitely the biggest shift, especially when you just have a kid. Because when you first have a kid, again, obviously I can only talk up to Sebastian being almost 2 years old.
Yes.
I'm sure many parents will be laughing at me thinking you've got a lot to come, and I know I have. But at the start, everything's all over the place those first few weeks.
So how could a new dad balance their parenting responsibilities with their fitness goals and maintain, let's say in your case, we'll use you as an example, someone currently training before we go on to someone who hasn't. How could you balance those parenting responsibilities with your fitness goals?
So I think
first, as you transition.
Yeah, I think firstly being realistic and knowing that this probably isn't the time to be going on an extreme cutting diet or hitting PBs in the gym. This is probably not going to happen. So again, it's that mindset shift of thinking, right, I'm just going to exercise to get my body moving, to make myself feel better, especially for the woman as well. Obviously, depending on the circumstances, they might not be able to exercise the first few weeks, especially at C-section or something like that. But if they can, it's like just being realistic with your goals. I think that's the most important thing. We've probably all seen celebs or sports players, after having a baby back on the pitch 4 weeks later. That's not. I would never want women to compare themselves to that, because that's not it's not a normal scenario, is it? And fair play, they did it, but you're looking at someone, an extreme sportsman who's been doing it their whole life. So you can't.
With probably a lot of assistance.
Yeah, exactly. And
like nutrition, carers.
So I would never want women, especially, to look at those people and think, oh my God, it's 3 weeks after I have a kid. Why am I not back to pre-baby weight, whatever that means?
Yeah, makes sense.
So I said the most important thing is just to be realistic in those initial few weeks.
Yeah. And
just focus on, can I just get my body moving? But no one's going to begrudge you in the first couple of weeks if you know what I mean. You don't do anything.
Yeah.
No one's ever going to say that when everything's topsy-turvy.
It's just better to try and just manage it the best you can.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what would be your advice to somebody who's gone into that without having a pre-existing time? Is that the right time to start training?
I mean, there's never a bad time to start training, but that's probably not. It's not. Again, there's never a bad time, but it's probably not going to be the most ideal time.
Yeah.
No, and I can imagine. It depends how you do it. If you start with something small, like let's say, for example, when baby's first born, it naps most of the time. Okay, so you might start with someone who's never done anything. Right, every 7 a.m. walk, every 7 a.m. nap that lasts, let's say, half an hour, I'm going to walk the baby. You see what I mean? Walk the pram, sorry. In the pram, obviously, don't walk the baby. In the pram. So now that's half an hour of exercise, X amount of steps. Yeah. And that's something that's kind of doing it alongside the baby's napping anyway. Okay. So that might be a great place to start without conflicting, because you're not conflicting a your parental responsibilities there. That, you know, if that's the dad doing that, maybe the wife needs to rest.
That's right.
Or vice versa. So
You tag to find the right system.
So I think, whilst again, there's never a bad time to start.
Yeah.
You're going to have to be realistic, and it's going to be a lot harder, and don't put too much pressure. Like we would say to any new client, whether they're parent or not,
Yeah.
we're not going to shove them in 7 times a week to doing something, because they're not going to last, are they?
That's right.
So
it's like a realistic starting point.
And at least the advantage of that is actually that their new exercise routine will be already with a family anyway. You asked how I transitioned. I had exercise routine pre-family, and now I have it now.
Yes.
So actually, for that person, it could actually be an advantage, because they won't know any different, if you see what I mean. That kind of makes sense. They only know exercise routine or new exercise habits.
Yes.
I have a kid already. So there was no, I used to be able to train 6 days a week. Now I can't. There is none of that. So actually, that could actually be a slight advantage. There's no pre-existing.
Yeah, so it just becomes like whatever they've built on, and then that's all they've
it's
ever
built
known.
on already having a kid anyway. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, I think, I definitely think people would obviously change their goals away from being things like, things when it comes to your more, I guess, superficial fitness goals would probably obviously change, where you'd kind of be focusing on perhaps physique goals. Maybe, for a mother who's just obviously given birth, her goals might be a little bit more around like shape and physique. But then I think you need to look past that, don't you? And focus on like a bit more of a purposeful goal, because I think that's probably not going to get you out of bed, right? Like when it comes down to it and you've had no sleep, you've got so much on your plate, work's calling. How would you say you're able to like navigate the right drive to actually take the time to even do that 30-minute walk that you said, which is a great idea, or just sit on the couch?
You kind of already said it. Your why, and I use that term a lot, has to change, and it will do. Like, again, my why when just like you were in our 20s was to look good, was to attract girls, was to, look good on the beach. Well, there was no beach in England, but you get what I mean. Those were our goals. And whilst we always prioritize physique goals, when I became a dad, suddenly it was about having energy for my kid. Yeah. Because as we know, or maybe someone doesn't know if they haven't done exercise, the more you exercise can be an energy generator, not necessarily an energy sapper, as hard as it can be. So now I'm realizing, right, actually, I want to train because I want to be in a better mental space as a dad. I want my energy levels to be high because looking after a kid is bloody tough.
Yeah.
And then obviously be that role model as the kid grows up as well. So in terms of drive and motivation, there's obviously going to be days you don't want to, but if that's how you kind of change your thinking, and, as a parent now, my fitness goals have a strong why because it's for my kid.
Yes.
I like to think that will make it a bit more powerful than, as you said.
Why do you think it's for your kid? Why? Like, what about that? What's the driver? Like, to be around longer with him, obviously, to be, in a better shape to be able to, like...
I think for me, and this is something I mentioned at the start, because for me personally, I can only speak personally, because I was an overweight child and bullied at school and by Fred, I suppose, other students. I guess for me, maybe it's slightly selfish. I don't want that for him. So that's probably why I'm very on it in terms of his food and making exercise, something that he sees around the house, which he always has, because I don't want him to have to go through what his dad did.
Yeah.
That's probably my reason. Again, I don't know if that's selfish or not, but I don't want him growing up overweight. I don't want him.
You see that a lot
like
here, right? You see a lot of overweight kids here.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think that they're probably getting bullied at schools?
I mean,
it's a big assumption, but like,
I think
if we
can be harsh at schools.
If we think back to when we were growing up,
I mean, I don't think. I don't know how. I'm not a teacher, but I don't know how you could regulate. You could physical bullying, yes, but word calling and everything like that, and verbal bullying, I don't know how you would regulate. I'm sure that still happens. As I said, it happened all my childhood till I was 14 years old. So
I think that's a valid enough reason, aside from like obviously the health concerns and all that kind of stuff. So like the playground's obviously quite a savage place when it comes to that kind of thing. So, I think that's a pretty interesting why. And I think what I was leading to here is a lot of people in this city definitely, have the issue where the parents aren't necessarily taking care of themselves. They're unable to obviously, be the right role models for their kids, and then probably don't even know how to actually follow the correct nutrition for their kids. And the more I've spoken with people in the past, nutritionists, different parents, etc., that's such a new world. Even when I had the summer camp last year with kids, the amount of stuff that they kind of hadn't known, or they didn't know when it came to just basic level nutrition. So I guess if you as a parent don't know any of this, how are you supposed to, educate your kid or even feed your kid, right?
Yeah, it is a worry. I think about that. I don't know about your parents, but I don't think my parents, that generation, nutrition wasn't a big thing back then. So, we were kind of fed, whatever, but you know what I mean? We were looked after, but it's only probably our generation or millennials, or whatever you want to call it, that now fitness is a thing, and now newer generations are growing up with it. So it kind of is up to us now to educate our kids whilst trying to educate same people as well to bring it back, because I don't think I'd trust a school to do it.
Yeah,
so it has to start at home. But you're right. If the parent in the first place doesn't know, then they're only doing their best. I would never ever think a parent isn't doing their best. Of course they're not. But that's why it's up to them to get educated or have help from a professional to help them get educated, because you can't rely on your 1-year-old to know what to do.
No, that's for sure. I've noticed you, if anyone follows Sam, you obviously take a lot of effort with your food. You've posted a lot of pretty cool snacks and different foods and stuff. Tell us a little bit about Seb's food routine and what you're doing when it comes to how are you managing that? Obviously you know what to do, but I've been very impressed with this meal prep setup you've got going at home.
Yeah, so people are going to laugh at this. So Sebastian doesn't actually eat any differently to us. And I don't think that's actually the best way to do it, I found. And before anyone's listening and think I only eat chicken and rice, I don't just eat chicken and rice. He likes chicken and rice, but that's not the point. But we eat similar foods. Now, obviously, as you're not a parent, so maybe don't quite know, but when they're about 9 months to 12 months, they can start eating solid, so to speak, and it'll be single foods. And then after that, they can kind of eat whatever. So right from that very first meal, he was eating, sweet potato, he was eating some vegetables, or he used to love salmon. He had a bit of a reaction a few months ago, so he doesn't eat anymore, but he loved that stuff. So right from the beginning, I didn't see any reason why his food should be different. I like to think in 2023, the days of that, a kid has to eat Cocoa Pops for breakfast, unfortunately aren't gone, but I like to think it's better.
Yes.
And I don't see any reason why my 2-year-old or Matura should eat any different to me and my wife. Obviously, portion size is smaller, but he has a fair appetite. Takes after his dad. So, and especially, as you said, when it comes to prep, it's stressful. Sebastian now goes to nursery 5 days a week. He was going 3, and he just moved to 5. So that means every single day, I have to pack his lunchbox for the next day, don't I? I can't do that without some pre-planning. And so to make it easier, I'm taking some food for what I've made for me and my wife and giving it to him. I can imagine if you're sitting there making food for you and your partner and think, now I've got to make the kids food. No wonder it's stressful.
Yeah.
So the sooner, if your kid's about 1 and about that weaning time, the sooner you can just get them onto the same foods that you're eating. Hopefully, they're obviously healthy choices.
Yeah, so that's another reason to get yourself sorted.
Exactly, it's going to make it a lot easier. I'll give a few examples, like a slow cooker or crock pot, as I think Americans call it.
Yeah.
If you've made a batch of chicken or whatever, it's meals for me and my wife, and I put some in his bowl. When I make rice, I make a whole, 2 or 3 bowls worth. I put a few scoops in his little lunchbox.
Yeah.
Today I boiled some eggs and a couple extra for him. So there's no extra time doing his food.
Yes.
You see what I mean? And it's
I like that. That's what I've liked at it.
It doesn't mean you have to buy pre-packaged stuff.
You don't have much pre-packaged stuff.
No, we might buy little packs of yogurts, for example. Yes. That's fine. It's easy to take to nursery, isn't it?
Yeah.
But he never. Apart from the odd pre-meals which you can get these organic packets. They're quite popular in the UK, and they're here as well.
Okay.
And he used to eat those a bit when he was younger, and they're quite good for planes as well.
Yes.
But that's in his bag for an emergency. If God forbid the odd time I actually forgot to make something.
For sure. So you've got a backup.
But when it comes to prep, if you just try to make it easy as possible, and I'm totally aware that it's easier said than done when your kid has a good appetite like mine, but not all kids do. But I like to think, again, I don't know, no one will approve it, but because I started him that way, now it's gone that way, and I know that there's some people think their kids will only eat certain things, especially unhealthier choices.
Yeah.
You know, let's say pizza or whatever like that. But at the end of the day, it's because they were given pizza in the first place.
Yeah,
Sebastian doesn't cry out he wants pizza and a donut because he's never had a pizza and donut.
No,
that doesn't mean he
right.
never will. I wouldn't say that point now. I'm not going to be that parent who denies him anything, but he doesn't need it at 2 years old.
That's right. It's
When
just
he gets older, I'm sure he'll have some pizza.
plenty of time to get stuck into those.
Exactly. Like
Plenty
there's
of
no
time.
need to do that because I never gave it to him. So
Yeah. So you would say then, based on that, it is possible for a new parent to, one, of course, for themselves eat healthy, but then of course provide a healthy, nutritious meal options for their family. Regardless, there should be no excuse there. I don't think. Even if you're busy, like time-wise, like you can make it work.
Yeah. Time-wise, it's just going to take some. Now, obviously, it's important to say. I think me and George don't have a nanny. We don't have help, so to speak. And obviously, most people in Dubai don't have family here. Obviously, some people do have nannies made. That's their own choice, whatever. So you actually might have someone that does the cooking for you. So then there definitely shouldn't be an excuse. But obviously, I guess I'm speaking more to parents who don't have help, like us. That it just needs a bit more time management. And unfortunately, if that means at 7 p.m. when he's gone to bed, instead of sitting down for Netflix for all of 20 minutes, I need to make his food for nursery the next day. I need to make his food for nursery the next day.
That's right.
That's just how it is. Like, I don't, that's just the way it is. So
yeah.
It was actually a lot easier in the first year when they just drank milk. That was
the dream. It's easier for us.
True,
maybe depending whether it's a breastfeeding or not situation, then that could also be a bit tricky. All right. So what would you say is the main area that a lot of new parents struggle with, and probably one of the most important factors when it comes to health, wellness, obviously stress management? What's that like? I want to ask you because you'll know this, but what's the main header that people need every single day?
Obviously, sleep, especially at the beginning.
Yeah.
That's going to be the main one.
Do you think people can like manage? How can somebody manage that? Because I think this is a thing that I have clients like literally like, oh, I woke 4 times last night. Oh, I'm on 2.5 hours sleep. I didn't sleep at all today. Like this is what's breaking them. And then they rock up to the gym. And as you and I know, when we're dealing with people who are sleep deprived, they're generally more hungry. They're craving sugars. Their performance drops. Their motivation dips. And this is all stemmed from something that can't simply be cured. Like in the sense of it's just like, oh, well, just go to bed earlier. Yeah. Or, just, stop drinking a coffee. Like the usual things that a single or, somebody without a child could actually manage. Now it's, full responsibility. How did you manage that? And what would your advice to a new parent to be able to like manage their sleep?
I think quite fortunately, we were quite early birds anyway. So again, obviously like yourself, being a PT and being up at 5 a.m. most days, I'm in bed by 9 p.m. anyway. So even when Sebastian was born, he'd obviously wake up 2-3 times a night as normal. But that first time he was going to sleep, so to speak, was about 9:30. So at least we'd all go to bed together. So if I woke up a couple of times and that last time was maybe 4 or 5 a.m., it kind of still fit into my schedule. So if you're thinking of having a kid or you're already pregnant and you're still living that lifestyle where you don't go to bed till 1 a.m. and wake up at 9, 10 or wake up even early and not get enough sleep, then you're going to be in for a right shock. So if you can try to change that beforehand, that'd be a good start. But obviously, once it's started and you are sleep deprived, again, I'm not a kid sleep expert. There's no, thankfully with Sebastian, he was always a very good sleeper, and that comes from, I believe, routine throughout the day. We were on it. I was on it, especially like we wanted his routine for the moment he wakes up, and it made him sleep better. From 6 months, he slept all the way through. So I can only speak about those first 6 months that, we were getting up twice a week, twice a night. But what you find is that normally it's the same times. Okay. So again, what you said before about the breastfeeding situation, we were bottled from the start because of issues he had. Yeah. So at least it meant George would get out once and I could get out once, so I could help out. Obviously, I know a lot of women don't have that luxury. Like the guy can't help out, like obviously for obvious reasons. So thankfully, it only meant that we were waking up once, so it wasn't actually too bad. And again, this is probably for dads as well. Like, if your wife has been up all night because she's been breastfeeding and everything, then we gotta, if you're not doing much around the house, much domesticated stuff, and you gotta
Pull your
stand
weight.
up a bit. Yeah, at the end of the day, and I know there's a lot that don't.
Yeah.
You do have to pull your weight, because what your wife's been through is, until you see your wife, partner, whatever, give birth, you have no idea how unbelievable strong they are.
Yeah,
to do
it's
it.
incredible
We can't relate
feat.
it to anything yet.
That's right.
So especially what they've just been through, you do need to pull your weight a bit, and if that means that you're taking care of the kids,
Doing
so
the
she can get a
dishes,
few extra sleep, doing dishes, whatever it is, then
Walking the dog.
Yeah, exactly. So again, so I'm not answering your question what to do about sleep necessarily, but it probably goes back to the first question, as in you're just going to have to manage your expectations.
Yeah.
At the end of it, because even though they wake up a couple of times a night, that's normally still similar times after a few weeks. In my experience and other friends I've had, it might be 1 a.m. or 4 a.m., but at least it's the same.
Yes.
Each night. So you see what I mean? So yeah, it's again managing expectations, and they are going to have, as you've seen, clients those nights where it's just frankly awful.
Yeah, just sometimes you've got to. Sometimes
yeah.
surely it's just like, guys, this is just part of it.
Yeah.
Like,
And
because
you just
people
kinda get
always
used to it,
Yeah, I think if the quicker people potentially adopt that attitude, where it's like, look, this is, you made a choice. There's going to be a hard slog for 6 months.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not, again, I don't want to compare dogs with humans, but like I can relate to obviously having a puppy, and I can't relate to having a kid. But when I got a puppy, and this is a mistake a lot of people make, is I got a dog. It's going to take minimum 12 months to be able to get the right behaviors, to manage all of the things. And you just know that that's the choice that you made, and you commit to it. Obviously, a child's totally different, but in the same sense, you've made a lifelong commitment. And yes, the next 6 to 12 months are going to be, I mean, with kids, there's different stages of challenge, right, as they grow up. So I think, yeah, like just actually going, look, it's either I try my best or don't try at all. Right? It's black and white when it comes to that sometimes, I think.
Exactly. And what you would say to a client, especially if there's a mum and, she's, on maternity leave and that she's had a rough night, and she doesn't mean she has to go to the gym for an hour, does she?
Yeah.
She could do, if she managed a walk or a little 10-minute workout at home, what would we say if that was a client? That's absolutely better than nothing.
Yeah,
There's
so
nothing wrong
would you
with that.
endorse, like,
of course.
what would your strategy be to somebody in that case? Say, I'm calling you up, hey, Sam, I've had 2 hours of sleep last night. I'm feeling flat. What should I do? I was meant to come into the gym today. What should I do?
Yeah, so at the if it's a complete one-off, that happens, fine. But if it's happening every night, then it's going to be, we're going to have to find other solutions. Yeah. So if the kid is napping, this is what I used to do. When he napped at 9 a.m., I knew that was my workout time. And of course, when you're super busy, and I get it, and you're doing everything at home, especially if your partner's out to work, you just want to sit on the sofa. But again, it's that mindset switch about thinking, if I did a 10-minute workout at home, maybe just body weight, whatever it was, how much better am I going to feel? I'm going to have more energy from doing that.
Yeah.
I know. And that's, again, it has to be that mindset shift that, exercise is an energy generator. It's not going to make me feel worse. No one ever felt bad after a workout. We know
that's
that.
Right.
Okay. So, again, it doesn't have to be, I can't go to the gym like I used to for an hour a day, so I just won't do anything. It doesn't have to be that. There's no rush, especially for women after, again, especially if it was a rough pregnancy and, they're not allowed to do exercise for the first 3-4 months. There's no rush.
Yeah.
Getting back, have to be back to where, or maybe you're never back to where you were. But now you've got a kid and there's other happiness in your life. And as long as you're healthy, you are healthy. Obviously, we never promote unhealthiness, but as long as you're healthy, maybe your body doesn't look the same. And for a lot of women, obviously, it doesn't. Yeah. And again, it's very easy to say that as a man. I totally understand that. And that we're not put through the same thing. But
the same physical.
But our lives will never be the same.
That's right.
Maybe when he's bugged off in 20 years, we'll see.
Yeah, there's a long time for that.
Exactly.
You can't just count down to that.
Exactly. But no, it will never be the same. So as you said, we're just going to have to adapt to a new circumstance. And if that means what I like to call it a dad workout, where I've only got half an hour and I'm going to have to be more efficient with time, then
I've seen you post a few of these.
Yeah.
Sam puts a lot of cool content up for those listening. We'll post his stuff in the link in the bio towards the end. But yeah, there's a lot of options out there, and you've kind of got a lot of the solutions, which is amazing. What I wanted to sort of ask is the amount of times, I mean, we've probably heard kids kind of go, oh, Dad, like, you look out of shape, or Mum, why do you have a stomach like this, or that kind of stuff. Kids are really conscious, aren't they, of how we are as like individuals, or how people are. So especially their parents. So do you think, the benefits of obviously trying to get in shape during would outweigh all of the difficulties and the challenges that you'd face for that reason?
Yeah, I think so. And I think kids are great imitators, and I didn't realize this, that they're always watching and learning. And you might think this kid is 2 months old and literally does nothing but sleep, eat, and go to the toilet. But it's all going in.
Yeah.
And before you know it, they do something because you've done it every single day.
Yeah.
And they just turn around and do it or say something. And so actually, they're always watching and basically knowing. So if you make any form of exercise, any form of healthy habit around the house, like me and my mobility, I spend a lot of time doing it.
A lot of time.
That's a different story. But every single morning I do 10 to 15 minutes, and let's say 5 days out of 7, I do some in the afternoon. So Sebastian's seen me do that every single day for the 2 years of his life. So now I can say to him, do you want to stretch with daddy? And he'll do downward dog, he'll lie on the floor with me.
Good.
It turns into him just jumping on me. Of course it does. But the point is that he finds it funny and he knows what it means.
Yeah.
Now, he doesn't see me exercise much because obviously he exercises in the gym. But, like if someone exercises at home and a kid would see that, they'd want to join in. And that's an amazing, healthy habit. The same with food. Like, again, it's not that me and my wife never eat anything what you would deem as less nutritious, but if we're sitting there with a 12-inch pizza and he's sitting there with a salmon and sweet potato, that doesn't look great because he's going to want it. Of course he is.
Yeah.
Or he's going to be curious.
As to why.
But if we're trying to sit there with the same meals, again, obviously in nursery and work, we don't eat many meals together.
Yes.
But on the weekend, let's say we're all eating a similar meal, how's that kid going to think that he's going to be involved? And especially now if I'm making him an omelette, I try to pick him up and let him watch or something like that.
Yeah,
obviously he's still too young to help. But
I don't want him to try sugar because then he'll be hooked to sugar. When's it too early to give him a beer and a... No, I'm joking. But
never too early. No.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a right answer.
Everyone's got different views on this,
I think
so.
So to give you an idea, Sebastian had no sugar or anything like that. On his first birthday, he had some birthday cake.
Okay.
And then I think Christmas last year was the first time he had chocolate. So he was 18 months by that point. He had ice cream when we were on holiday. So I think for me personally, just in these first 2 years, I've just been more strict. But now I will I feel like it's not such as big a deal now.
Yeah.
If, this Easter, he had an Easter egg. And I didn't give him the whole egg, of course not. I just gave him some. But again, it's probably... As now he gets older, I don't know. I could be completely wrong, and in 5 years we're sitting in the kids addicted to sugar. I hope not. But the point is, I feel like it's not really in our house. I'm not restricting him in terms of what I'm eating it in front of him, saying ha, you're not allowed. It's not that, and I think again, from someone who was overweight as a kid who ate a lot of this, maybe it could just be kept to more special occasions, like when he's 2 very soon. Of course, he's gonna have birthday cake, and he can have whatever he wants. That's it. And I think as long as we don't use those words like some people do, call it a cheat or anything like that, or definitely don't do the thing about eat your food, then you can have some chocolate, because I just believe that's complete.
Yeah, I think I agree with
connotation.
That. It's listen to me, and you can have a bag of chips.
No, exactly. I personally
don't
don't believe that's right. Again, from someone who grew up the whole childhood overweight, those negative words stay with you. I still struggle with that because of everything in a childhood. So remember, your kid's the most important thing. So, I don't use the word dessert in the house, for example. Sebastian has fruit after every meal, but I don't say, finish out, you can have some dessert. Because
what would you say? We're going to have some fruit.
Yeah. Do you want some fruit? Or sometimes he doesn't. So it just doesn't become a thing, because I realised what was happening is that every meal then has to be followed by dessert. And when eventually that's going to turn into, I have an ice cream, or have it after every single meal, which is unnecessary.
That sounds like that's me.
Yeah.
Basically.
But that's my point. It's he loves fruit, and so
if he asks for fruit, you would say
And sometimes I just give it to him, and he loves his fruit, and it just doesn't need to be. I just don't think it needs to be a thing. Person. And now, obviously, as he gets older, and it's not the end of the world. Him having slightly, a bit more of these unhealthy things. I'm not going to be that kid to deny dad to deny my kid an ice cream if I'm on a summer holiday. It's not. But I think a nice rule, which I always have myself, is that if I am having chocolate or anything, at least it's after the healthy, nutritious meal.
Yes.
Do you see my point? I would never replace his meal with an ice cream. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get it.
Ice cream, you had it because you ate your normal meal.
Yeah,
I think that's
right.
I mean, that's how I live my life, so I don't see
Why he would be any different.
Yeah, because then at least it's not, Daddy, I want chocolate for dinner.
Yeah.
Obviously, no, you're not going to have chocolate for dinner.
That's right. I think, like, guys, you can probably see, like, the direction that this keeps heading in, which is like, if you have the right systems already set up yourself, it makes it so much easier to just introduce your child into that same healthy, well-balanced, active lifestyle. Because I think the hard part would probably be, and I think your advice in the first few minutes was amazing, was to say, if you're expecting to have a child, get onto it ASAP so that you can implement it for yourself before you actually have to then, juggle both, but also like don't let it go too long. And, they're 10 and they've watched you kind of be a grub for 10 years and get yourself out overweight and not eat this or that. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm sure that like that's probably that will probably have effects on your child at that age, and they'll be coming to see Sam and I when they're 20, 25, 30 and going, hey, I have no idea about nutrition. Because this is what happens. This is like that trend. I'm hoping, like you said before, that we've hopefully starting to put a stop to that, and kids are being educated at a younger age to make better choices, etc., rather than getting to their later years and coming and seeing us for help and saying, I don't even know what calories are and I don't know how to balance how does a well-balanced meal look? People think it's just a meat pie in each hand, which it's not. I wish it was, but it's not that easy. But yeah, you get me. So, do you think both parents have a vital role to play in all of this?
Yeah, of course.
In what way?
Like even in your relationship podcast, you mentioned, like, it's all about communication and teamwork, isn't it? Like, you have to communicate, and it doesn't matter if one person maybe takes more charge. Like, I take charge of the food in my house, that's fine. We have different roles which Sebastian prefers. Like, I always put him to bed, he doesn't kick off. George always does bath time, so he sometimes kicks off for me. So you'll find yourself, you'll have those roles anyway. But when it comes to taking care of your own health, which you do, it's always easy to say put yourself first. I know that's harder. Easier said than done, and I'm sure we've both been guilty when we were younger of saying that when we didn't have kids. But yeah, it's taking turns and communicate, saying, look, we both work 9 to 5. Tomorrow morning is your hour in the gym.
Yeah,
I'll get kid ready. The next morning is my hour in the gym. You get the kid ready. Whatever it is, it's just
I like that. That's great.
So then you're both taking care of yourselves, and then that will eventually pass down. And I think, just like any relationship, communication has to work. And I again, so many disclaimers, like, I totally understand it's hard. I'm probably making this out like he's the perfect kid and we're the perfect parents. Definitely not at all. We have issues just like anyone else, and we, I tell him off. And again, anyone who has a toddler knows it can be an absolute pain sometimes, but still got to just stick to those fundamental principles and just know that, wow, all that routine we were so strict about in the first 6 months has now paid off because we don't lose sleep. And before you know it, again, similar with a dog. I know it's not similar, but it's true. All the work you put in at the start, we had a puppy before as well.
Yes.
All the work you put in at the start means they're now better trained later on. Not saying we're training the kid in the same way.
No,
but we're just making some analogies.
Concept.
Yeah. Everything now I believe that I'm doing, that we are doing for Sebastian, will pay off as he's older. And I'm sure when he goes to school, there'll be other challenges, and he'll come home and say, why does, John have chocolate biscuits in his lunchbox and I don't? And I'm sure there'll be a conversation I have to have. And I haven't really thought about how I'm going to manage that conversation yet. But, I'm sure there'll be other tests coming on. So I can only speak for his first few years where I guess it's easier to control.
Yeah.
But just because it's easier doesn't mean people do it, as we know.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, it's a great time to like do it all in one.
Yeah.
Get yourself in shape.
Yeah, definitely.
As a couple, focus on that. And then also introduce your child to the perfect potential pathway to health, fitness, and activity. I think that's great. And the tips you've given actually today are really good. It's actually made me feel a lot less stressed about it. Because sometimes, like, even I feel guilty being in the gym just because Vic and, like, the dogs are home, or, like, I've got this and that. And I'm like, I need to squeeze my session in. And I feel like I can't function without getting a workout in.
Exactly.
So there's been times where I'm like, shit, like, how, when that day does come, like, how am I going to manage like a lot of the time I put into myself to stay in shape? But you've got a lot of answers for that. So there are answers out there, guys, and like Sam's got a lot of different strategies and tips. Like, do you have any other little like go-to tips and tricks that somebody listening could benefit from? I mean, I've cleared you out of most of them, haven't I?
I feel like most of them.
So we've got let's summarize them then.
Yeah,
we've got the dad workouts or the...
so the quick workout, obviously mum workouts if you're a female.
Mum workouts as well.
Just because I'm a dad. So we got the quicker workouts. And again, especially at the beginning, they might have to be 10 minutes body weight at home if you've got a pair of dumbbells, you know. The overriding tip is to be more realistic. If you used to do 5 days a week for an hour and a half, that probably ain't going to happen, especially at the start. So stop thinking like that and just change your mindset. Again, the biggest tip is that now your why is probably going to change. And if you're struggling for drive and motivation, you now got someone else to look after. And you're staying in shape for yourself, of course. It's important. But you're doing it for them. And any healthy habits you learn is now for your kid. And, you know, every parent's just trying to do their best and bring their kid up in what they think is the best way. But to me, again, for someone who's been in this industry a while, there's not many things more important than someone's health and fitness. So, you know, I learned that the hard way growing up. So I don't want that for Sebastian. So your mindset might just have to change. Cook as a family. Try to, when they get to that point, obviously, as in eat similar meals. You know, I don't want to be prepping separate meals for 3 people, so I can understand why that would stress people out. So don't do it. You know, The sooner you start him or her on the similar foods, that's going to be better. And I've got better. I used to hate it if he didn't eat a meal and I had to him a slice of toast. Now I can, most of the time, get over it. Yeah. Because it happens sometimes,
And even like the multitasking bit that you'd mentioned too, like trying to do 2 things at once, like manage that sleep time. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, like you have to do a lot more when they're asleep. Like when they have many naps, there's plenty of opportunities. And again, kill 2 birds at once. They're going to nap in their pram. Babies will nap anywhere. So I'm going for a walk at that time. That's 45-minute nap for him or her, and whatever, there's 5,000 steps.
Yes.
You see what I mean? So you're killing 2 birds at once.
Yeah.
And so,
I like that.
you know, it's, again, maybe when they get older and don't sleep as much, or at least at school or, you know.
Yeah, you'll have more support systems.
Then when they're there, then you might have a bit more time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's great. Like, there are answers out there, guys. If you're struggling right now, there are plenty of little solutions. You just have to be prepared to obviously act on them. It's going to take a little bit of effort if you don't already have those health and fitness systems in place. And, you know, there is definitely different techniques and tips and tricks, right, that people can do. Sam, I wanted to ask you, like, now, let's say this Sam, the parent Sam, opposed to previous Sam, because I know both. Yeah. So what role does health and wellness and fitness play in your life now? Like, you kind of touched on this, but what is it and what's your favorite way to stay active?
Still in the top 3 priorities of my life. I don't like to rank them or anything, but I don't think that's changed necessarily. I just have another added priority there.
Yeah.
It hasn't made my health and fitness has changed or gone to the wayside again. Just my goals might be slightly different, trying to stay a bit more pain-free and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So for me, it's still absolutely important. Favorite ways of keeping in shape, similar like you, obviously like training in the gym. Again, I understand it's easier for people with our job. But again, just going on walks, and even now that Sebastian can walk, maybe not now in the heat, but before going out together and, you know, trying to get him to kick a ball around. And, you know, kids, especially toddlers, it's like someone shoved a battery up them. They don't stop. So you can easily run around with them. It doesn't have to be, you know,
that's
sat on the TV and everything, you know. On the
that's a good way to also do the multitasking, right? Yeah, you run around, they run around, everyone's...
You know, you make an activity as a family, something active.
Yeah. I think you've been in some of your leanest condition. I think you almost had looked leaner at one point 6 months ago than you had when you'd actually done an intentional cut. Don't you think? I don't know. Sam literally got so lean at one point, and this is post having Seb.
Yeah. If it wasn't intentional. So what happened was, I know like fitness watches aren't 100% accurate, but just from looking after a kid, I would say steps were similar, maybe a bit more.
Yeah.
But like my calorie burn every day, I guess from running around as a kid and maybe the stress of it as well, was just shot up through the roof. So that was happening. And then again, portioning out food, back to that slow cook example, that used to be 3 meals. Now it might be 4 meals and 1 for Seb, so I'm probably eating less myself.
You feel like you're giving up some of it.
So I don't know if that's actually a good thing. I've probably lost a bit of muscle over those 6 months too.
Yeah, still looking good.
But I don't think I've actually done anything differently.
Yeah.
It's just my output has been a lot more, especially those times, as I said at the beginning, those hard times when I was by myself.
Yeah.
apart from working and training, I kind of was sitting around a lot. Suddenly you put a kid in the mix, your output's going to massively increase. And I felt it then too. Some of my weight just plummeted. I was like, gee, I actually didn't really like it. It was,
okay.
But no, I saw your point.
You get what I'm saying. Like,
it
I
kept
was
you on
like,
your toes, I feel like that.
yeah, like considering you'd done an intentional cut and then you just went to dad life and like you were still able to kind of somewhat in a roundabout way manage things either directly or indirectly. You know, there are like opportunities to like maximize kind of everything. Don't let that be an excuse.
Yeah, no, definitely. And there are times when, as I said, I'm not perfect. Like I miss a meal, and I would never ever do that.
Yeah.
But again, because I don't know, I forgot to prepare some of Sebastian. He's eating that, so
Yeah.
people listening to me won't believe I would give up food for someone. But that's obviously the massive
That
change.
would be
'Cause
the
I would
only
never
exception.
ever give up food
That is-
for anyone in my life. I do not share food. But
Yeah, I didn't think you would actually.
That's the biggest change. Yeah.
The only exception. That leads me to the Lifestyle Hub golden question, which is, what do you think is key to living a happy and fulfilling lifestyle?
I think a lot of people obviously say consistency, so I don't want to repeat other people. I think the key is...
So you believe consistency is one of them?
Yeah, I do believe consistency and enjoyment are two. And I am going to go back to that reason why. I think that is the most important thing. There has to be a reason why. Like, and it's okay if, again, there's not parents listening to this and your reason why is because you want to look amazing in a swimsuit on the beach. That's okay. But sometimes you try and go a little bit deeper and be that reason why. Like, when that was my reason, when I was 20 years old, came from being super unconfident because I was overweight.
Yeah.
So that was a deeper reason why I first ever lost weight because I was a shy boy who never spoke to a girl or anything like that. Yeah, I was 14 years old, but that why is then strong. And me and you speak to people every day. I want to lose weight. Great.
Yeah.
But what?
What's the real reason?
And so now again, hopefully parents, even if there's one parent listening, think, you know what? Wow, it's I've neglected myself, and again, fair enough, it can happen. There's having a kid's a big thing, but actually, you know what? Sam's maybe right. If I'm not going to do this solely for me, I need to at least do it for my kids. Hopefully, even if one person can start,
Yes.
I guess we've done something good today.
Yeah, and I like that. Yeah, I like that. That's so important and such a good little bit of a tip. Sam, what can people do for those wanting to obviously keep up to date with what you're posting on your socials, which, like I mentioned, lots of valuable information on there. Where can they find you?
Main place is Instagram, @SamFroelich_coach.
Cool.
Just try to spell my name right. Just look in the show notes because it's never going to happen.
Yeah, I'll put the link below.
Yeah,
I'll put the link below.
That's for the main place I post and everything. Obviously in the same gym as you. So
you'll see Sam around the gym.
So for anyone listening from there,
mate, it has been absolutely awesome having you on. I feel like I'm so much more relaxed at potentially going down that road because you're able to
I can't wait till it happens.
You're actually able to answer so many questions. We will obviously get you back on again. I think there's a lot of other topics that you and I can dive into. So, definitely I hope you enjoyed coming onto the podcast today.
Yeah, it was really fun. Really fun. Thanks,
we will be seeing you very soon.
Definitely.
Guys, stay up to date with the episodes coming up over the next couple of weeks. Plenty to touch on over the month of June and July. So I'm very excited to share all of this information with you. Stay tuned for Sam's episode, which will be out. It was already out if you've got to this point. So you listen to it again, go back to the start. So obviously, guys, have a quick favor. Please, if you're enjoying the podcast, let me know. If you have a minute to spare, I'd love to read reviews. So definitely get the reviews down, guys. And any questions that you have, I can obviously pass them on to Sam and answer them through the IG channel as well. Make sure you please subscribe to the podcast in the app that you're listening to so that you can receive new episodes right when they're released. And finally, guys, one last shout out to our Ghana Fitness Supplies, the leading home and commercial gym specialists in the Middle East. You can check them out at www.ghana.ae for all of your fitness needs. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining me, Jason Grimmer, on the Lifestyle Hub podcast. I'll catch you later.